Hey, hey, hey. How's everybody doing today? We got a great show for you today with Corey Youngblood from Title One. I hope you're all ready. Got yourselves buckled in. Got your tray tables up in the upright position. Take it out of the recline mode and get ready for the show of the day. Darwin is fresh back from Florida. He doesn't want to share his sunburn, where he got to enjoy the warmer weather while we were digging ourselves out of ice and snow for the last few days. All right, Corey, it's your time, buddy. It's time to turn your camera on. And so I'm going to introduce Corey. Corey's going to talk to us. He's going to help us understand a couple of things, which this first statement I just absolutely love. Okay, what is title insurance in simple terms? Understand that I'm a little slow, and sometimes I need a little help. I'm like Larry, that I'm a little slow. So Corey, help me out.
Absolutely. I first want to start. I hope you can hear me. My computer completely died today, so I'm on my phone. I plugged it in yesterday, turned it on, because I don't use my laptop very often, turned it on, made sure it worked. And I went to turn it on this morning, nothing, just won't even turn on anymore, fully charged. So I'm not sure what's going on there. So I hope you can hear me and it's coming through okay.
All's good.
All right, perfect. That's good to hear. So thanks for having me on, Bob. I really appreciate it. We're happy to, help out in any sense we can, any, teaching or anything we can do to help you guys out. The better you do, the better we do. So, we're happy to be here. That first thing Bob said, what is title insurance in its simplest form? I gave Bob a couple handouts, so there's the one on the basics of title commitments. So I don't know if everyone can see that, but
I'll throw it up here.
Okay.
All right. Let me share my screen for him. And where did it go? Try that again.
Well, while Bob's looking for that, the basic, most easy way to explain it is that it protects our buyers and our lenders, depending on who's getting the policy, who your client is, from any loss from prior ownership. So if there is issues with liens that didn't show up, mortgages, home equity lines, mechanics liens, those, your buyers, let's work with your buyers are protected from any loss from prior ownership. So what we do when we get a title request, we research from what would end up being the date of closing back to the beginning of parceling out those properties. And we do that so that we can make sure that each transaction, there has been a proper chain of title kept. Each buyer has been deeded that property from the correct seller. All those sellers, those mortgages, all the way back have been paid off. Any liens from contractors, any easement disputes, anything like that has been cleared. And it is for the life of ownership of your buyer that they are protected through that title commitment issued by Title One. And, that it's easy if they ever have a claim, which, are on the rarer side that your buyers are going to have to make a claim. But if they do, we have our in-house attorney that works with us on all of our properties. And they would be the ones that would, help file those claims and, go through with getting that done. But like I said, it is, very rare that something like that would happen where we would need to, file a claim. But that insurance, protects your buyer's equity in the property from anyone but themselves stating that they retain an ownership right in that property. The
I have a quick
most
question, Corey.
absolutely, yeah.
Have you ever had a claim, and can you share that with us?
So anytime there is a claim, that goes directly to our attorneys, and our underwriters don't want them sharing those claims with us of the content of those claims. But we've never had a claim that hasn't been able to be, fixed, that hasn't been able to be remedied. The most common claims that ever get filed are, back taxes, liens, mostly mechanics liens. And the ones that pop up the most are conflicting wills, where a property has been, deeded out after the will was reviewed. And then, the siblings or whoever it is has a disagreement of how that should have been, proceeded, how the closing should have proceeded.
Hey, Corey, before you get started again, because that just brought up a point. You're talking about everything, all the steps that have to take place. And again, we're always on a timeline. Once, we get all our paperwork accepted and everything else, we're moving forward. So do you encourage that we actually submit early to get pre-title?
So I do in certain situations. If you're, if it's a single individual selling or a married couple selling and everything seems really straightforward, you're probably not going to have an issue. But anytime in your listing meeting with the seller, the keywords I would look out for you and then tell you to order pre-title on are going to be, a decedent, a dead ownership, a trust, or an estate. Anytime those, are potential things that could hold up the closing, why not? After you go to that listing and the property is then on the market, why not order that pre-title? Because we encourage you to do so in those situations. There are times where I've had agents come to me and be like, oh, should we order pre-title on this? And I ask them about it. And, oh, it's a married couple that I know, and I know they have one mortgage, and I trust them that that's true. I said, well, really, we don't need to order pre-title on that because it is going to be so straightforward. Really, at that point, all we have to do is order the mortgage payoff and we're good. Stuff like that, I would say, probably not. But estates, wills, probate especially, and trust, I would say, yeah, absolutely. And you'll never get any pushback from us on ordering those. And we know that, some of these that we order pre-title aren't going to close, but it's just, that's the cost of doing business for us. Like I said, we are here to help you guys. Whatever we can do to help you get to the table with your buyers, your sellers, whatever it is, we're happy to do so. I know our in-house people are very good, but I'm always available to you as well. I may be in a closing or in another meeting, but if you leave, just shoot me an email. I will get back to you right away. And, if you have questions, hey, do you think we should order pre-title? Maybe instead of ordering pre-title right away, I can just run a copy of the last deed and that'll give us an idea of who it's deeded into. And then maybe we don't need to order pre-title, but we'll get you the information to make the best decision on if we should or shouldn't order that pre-title. I think it is a great thing to help you out to get to that closing table as quickly as possible. The owner of Title I says to me all the time, he goes, you get your paycheck every 2 weeks, but these realtors, they got to close to get those paychecks. That's how they get paid. And it's our job to help them get there. And, absolutely, I live by that on a day-by-day basis at work. What can I do? If there's something that can get you there 2-3 days quicker, so we're not waiting on trust docs or estate docs or whatever it is, why not? Especially, we're never going to charge you for pre-title. We're going to get it out to you. And if there's something that needs to go out as quickly as possible, I think one of the best things that Title I as a company does is we do our own examining. We have in-house examiners. So if we order pre-title and we find something, we're going to be able to get it out to you as soon as possible. We don't have to order our exam out to another company. You know, we do it ourselves. So if you say to us, hey, we need this one as soon as possible, we're going to take that to heart and we're going to get it to you as soon as possible. Now, there's nothing we can do about taxes. So taxes may still be outstanding, but we can get you your commitment that's going to have a Schedule B on it that shows you, here's what needs to be done to close. We need this mortgage payoff, this, you know, these estate docs, it's owned in a trust, we need a certificate of trust. Whatever it may be, you know, we'll have the framework then of telling you, hey, I know it's still listed, you don't have an offer, but we might want to start looking at getting these things done. And, you know, Bob scrolled down there on this, you know, the basics of title commitments. And this shows us really, you know, the Schedule A, Schedule B, and Schedule B2, you know, are the three things that are going to be shown in there. Schedule A is just who, what, and how much it's going to cost. It shows your buyers, your sellers. Is there a mortgage? What's the sales price? And then Schedule B is that framework of what we need to finish, what we need to get final docs of to be able to sell the property. You know, it may be, like I said, estate, trust. Those are always the ones that are going to be, you know, the most difficult to clear. So it will show on that pre-title. And, you know, anytime you order a pre-title, it's going to be your exact commitment just without buyer's information. You know, so everything is there to help you get to that closing table. And, you know, if we have everything prior for the seller, you know, it also makes you look more prepared, even though it's just you sending us an email, hey, order pre-title on this property, because you can get that to your seller and then that doesn't hold up their closing. Because if we get it at, you know, the time of order, you know, maybe they have to hunt down the attorney to get trust documents, things like that. And we can make it go that much quicker if we're already working on that prior to having a buyer.
I'm going to insert in here real quick because, again, probate is probate, and we're dependent upon the courts to do their things.
Absolutely.
That we, you know, we have the ability to do our thing. But
Absolutely.
thinking of trust now, is there a certain kind of a time frame that you want that certificate of trust to be within?
You know, recently that has become more lax on time, where we can have those be a little older than they used to be. You know, the great thing about it, though, is a lot of these sellers, they want to keep that certificate of trust. They don't want to give it to us on, you know, on record. Well, they don't want to give it up. We can prepare you a new certificate of trust if the seller gives us the one they have and there's been no changes. So one of the trustees hasn't died, they haven't amended it. We can just do a new certificate of trust, have them sign that one at closing, and then take that one. They keep the original they already have. And that is something that I think is a big help to people at closing, because, you know, they got this big binder of docs from their attorney, and them thinking of handing that over to you and not getting it back is worrying to a lot of sellers. So we can prepare those, and then we don't have to worry about date because it's been signed date of closing. But it has laxed up a little bit where we can take some older ones, and really it's kind of examiner to examiner or underwriter to underwriter for us of if they'll accept that current certificate of trust.
Okay, I got a couple of questions too that came through chat.
Okay.
What about if I have an original abstract from 1940 on a 1950 home? Would this be useful?
Probably not for us to get that. We're going to pull the records all the way back to that. We're going to see it anyways.
Yeah. Okay. How about, okay, so one of the things that happens on my listing is, you know, I file all my paperwork with the title company and everything else. Now I get a title commitment. Mm-hmm. Do I just ignore that, file that away with, you know, is there something I'm supposed to do with that?
If I'm you, I'm taking a look at that, and where we have this screen is perfect for Schedule B1. This shows Schedule B1 on your commitment show, like I said, shows what needs to be done. If you were to just shove it off to the side and not look at it, you know, we're going to let you know anyways, hey, we need this. But I recommend taking a look at it because when we send the commitment, we're going to say, hey, we need a certificate of trust. We need this to finalize everything. But having that in front of you, does help as well. I believe it. I tell all agents, and I've worked with so many new agents where I try and teach them how to read that title commitment. Because the first one you get is going to look like it's written in a different language. You're not gonna understand it. It's not gonna make sense. But I try and get people to learn how to read those because they are simple once you know where everything is at. But I would look at it just because it does spell out everything that needs to be done. And then you can take those and that information directly to your seller and say, hey, these are the things. Maybe they can start working on them as quickly as possible. Like I said, if it gets us one day earlier to the closing table, that's one day earlier we can get everyone paid.
So you said it gives me everything. So does that identify, like, if there's an easement on the property or an encroachment, in addition to documents I might need, is an easement an issue or an encroachment an issue? Is it on there?
So any recorded easements are going to be in Schedule B2. They're going to show water rights, utility rights, things like that. And also any easements that neighbors have, agreed to, oh, you have right of way to use this driveway or whatever it is, are all going to be listed there. But those easements, that is set for life. It's not something that has to be cleared, but it will show any easement rights that are listed in Schedule B2.
Well, another hot question in the chat is, so okay. I've sold a couple of different properties and I've also bought a couple of properties and I've always used Title I. So do I get a discount because I'm a repeat customer with Title I?
So the underwriters, we work with the two biggest underwriters in the country, and that's Old Republic and First American, and they have stopped giving discounts for the most part. Now, if it is turned around right away where it's bought and then sold, extremely quickly, we can still go to them and at times get a small discount, but they have stopped that. The underwriters really don't give out those discounts on, bought through the same title company, sold through the same title company. They rarely give those now.
Okay.
And our prices go through those underwriters those are nationally set. And I see John's question at the bottom with that. What is that time frame? A year does not fall in that time frame. I've had, where it was a quick flip and that has, worked for them. You're looking at 1-2 months. Something like that. I mean, I'm talking very quick. Yeah. And to answer Lydia's question, it was, a year and a half, 2 years ago is kind of the time frame that stopped, to the best of my knowledge. I can kind of nail down that time frame, but it was, roughly a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
So should I, once I get the commitment, should I review that with my sellers?
Yeah, I think reviewing it with them is good. If you tried to give them that to read, I think that might just confuse them, because it is in, there's all the schedules on there, there's everything on there. But, once you're more comfortable with reading those commitments, I think, you just have that list of things, here's what we need. We need this mortgage payoff, the taxes have been paid, you'll have a list of items to tell them, hey, this is what we need to get clear title so that we can get to the table and close. Okay. Yeah, I think giving it to them, not a bad idea, but expecting them to be able to read that and, figure out what's on there is probably not the best way to go.
Okay. So I understand easements, go with the land and all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. So in the commitment, do I get a Google map? I mean,
you do not
actually know, is it plotted so I can visualize it?
I can get you, it doesn't come with the commitment. I believe I can get you that and show that if that ever arises. We can, what we have, we might not have a full survey, but, we could get legal descriptions and try and figure that out for you.
Well, remember, I'm a little slow, so I need all the help I can get.
Hey, and I'm happy to do anything I can to help you out.
So I think I understand what our buyers or our sellers are paying for. Okay, because it's like insurance. Okay, the nice thing is, of course, if I file a claim, it doesn't go up like auto insurance.
Yeah, because you've already paid for it. It's that one-time fee at closing. There's never another, collection on title insurance. It's just that one time.
So I'm trying to phrase this. So the flow of the title documents.
Mm-hmm.
So once we turn over the listing to you, or the completed deal to you as the title company.
Yeah.
Hopefully we did pre-title when we got the listing. And so then I guess, how long does the search go on? In other words, is it like up to the last 24 hours? Maybe all of a sudden somebody filed a lien against the house for whatever reason. Again, I'm thinking back to this quick flip thing.
Yeah. And that's a really good question. So when we have a closing, and I'll go over the flow of documents and how everything comes and goes, but to answer that question directly, we do another search right at the end of the day before your closing. So the counties are actually quite a bit behind. So when you do a record search at the county, you're not getting records from the day before. It's roughly a month behind, let's say, in the 3 major counties in the area, you're a month to 40 days behind. So we're getting as up-to-date information as we can get. It is not to the day. So we are insuring over what is to us called that gap period of, let's say we were closing today and we're closing in Oakland County, and the last day of records on that they're up to date on is the 7th or 8th of last month. We're insuring from February 8th through that gap period as well. Something that pops up in there is taken care of by your title policy. If something goes on last second, but we do have sellers sign, stating we haven't put any new liens on the property, we haven't taken mortgages, any contract work that may have been done has been paid for. And something new that we're having signed, kind of in the last year and a half, is that they haven't deeded any portion of the property to anyone else. And we have it go through a 120-day period. That's just our standard time frame, in case the counties fall behind, because, during COVID, they were, not to 120 days, but they were quite a ways behind, and we're insuring over those gaps. Okay. So we do have those sellers sign stating that nothing has been put on record, but, we kind of at closing have to take them for their word on that. Now, if that's not the case, they're going to be, hearing from our attorneys because they've signed stating something that they haven't put any new liens on the property. But your buyer, even if we didn't do that last day search, your buyer is insured from the day they close all the way back. There's nothing that has popped up in there. They have insurance, even if the seller has done something that, they shouldn't have done and not told us about. The buyers are insured, the lenders are insured. It's all taken care of there. And I see Barbara's question, what if they lie? Well, we're gonna find out about it, and they're gonna hear from our attorney. And there's not much else to say on that. That they have signed off on it. They'll be held liable for it.
There was another question that went to you talked about cost. So is there like a rate sheet that I should?
Absolutely.
Does the office have it? I mean, how do I figure this out?
Yeah, every office should have those. If they don't, let me know and I will email you some, and then I will bring hard copies to whatever office needs them. I'll hop to and bring them right over to you. But I'd like to get one in your hands as soon as possible, and I'd email one to you. And awesome. You can also go on our website and, if it's especially on an owner's, if you have a seller's side, that you can just put in the sales price and it'll tell you the policy that the seller would be responsible to pay.
Well, and that's always great, because if you want to help your seller understand their closing cost, it's really nice.
Absolutely.
To have that rate sheet.
Absolutely.
But so I've worked with you multiple times. I'm comfortable with you and everything else.
Mhm.
Right now, I find myself working with a buyer and it's a cash deal. I don't want to go with their title company. What do I do?
I get it. And I'll tell you what, I wish I could tell you we would help you out with it and take it over for them. But sadly, seller has choice on that. And they're almost 99% of the time going to go with the title company that that seller works with. You know, I'm not here to tell you that these other title companies are non-reputable and anything like that. You know, you're going to get a title company that's in that process that's going to take care of you. And, you know, I'm not here to sling mud or anything like that. Like I said, I'd love to do every deal you had. And if I could, I would, and I'd steal all of them from those other title companies. But really, there isn't much in our eyes that you can do to, outside of asking that listing agent, hey, we'd like to use Title One, and kind of go from there.
So are the rates the same from title company to title company?
They may vary, you know, minimally. It could be very small. Like I said, our rates are set by our underwriters, and we do use those two biggest underwriters in the country. But if a title company is using a different underwriter, they may be minimally different. I mean, very small amounts. They're very close. It is not, that's not a spot where we can, you know, that title companies compete for pricing on. It's set by those underwriters, and the price is the price for them.
So now I am the listing agent. So
Okay.
and it's a cash deal. So I'm coming to you. Question is does the buyer get charged a closing fee?
We only ever charge one closing fee, you know, and on the cash they will be, and they're going to be charged that closing fee by every title company in the area. The one place we never have charged a closing fee is to sellers on split closings. Some title companies do, most of them do. We will never charge your seller a closing fee.
Okay. So, you know, thinking back about this, they lied. So what if they actually, maybe they had contracted for lawn mowing, or they might have contracted for snow removal, or blow the leaves off my roof. You know, I wake up one day and I got this guy up on my roof. The heck? Get off my roof. Who are you? Am I obligated to pay him?
You would not be obligated to pay him, to the best of my knowledge. But Bob, I got to tell you that one. I've never had that pop up. And, you know, I'm not going to tell you something that I don't know 100%. But I do not believe that would be a new buyer's issue to pay for that.
Is it possible?
They're not contracted with that company. I would get him to stop as soon as possible if he could.
Right after he got done plowing it. But so because he had this arrangement with the previous owner, could he file a lien to get paid?
If he does, it is cleared through your title policy. Either way, that is covered, even if, you know, if it's the basic owners or something that I know that was going to come up a little later, you know, through the Eagle Advanced policy, it's covered through both on mechanics.
Well, Eagle Advanced policy. What in the world is that?
So that, secondly, there you go. I didn't even need to ask you to pull it up. You knew, you were going right to it. You were leading me there, Bob. I know you were. So the Eagle policy just does give the buyer, you know, quite a bit more in protection. So Bob, if you flip to page 2 of that, there's a checklist of policy protections.
Page 2, there was 2 pages?
Of this one, yeah, there should be. Here, it would look like this.
All right, just a minute. I'll be right back.
All right, take a look. Take a look. You know, as Bob's looking for that, you know, a lot of things that end up being covered on an Eagle policy, they're not on your basic owner's title policy. You know, it gives you some post policy protections. You know, if there was a forgery, or, you end up having, adverse possession or a squatter on the property, that is, something that you could file a claim with, and we would help, or not we, the underwriter would help in, taking them to court or getting them out of the property on a adverse possession squatters issue. I did see a question come across the bottom regarding closing fees. Our mortgage closing fee is $575, and our cash closing fee is $275. I'm sorry, and refis, which not going to be coming up for you guys all that much, is $250.
Yeah, I'm almost there.
Hey, take your time. Take your time.
Foolish me. I didn't look to see if there was 2 pages.
No, on cash, it's just to the buyer. Your seller does not pay a closing fee, John. There it is. Hey, you pulled that up quick. I would have panicked. That would have took me a lot longer. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm used to it. Darwin does this to me all the time.
So that first column is what's covered through your standard policy that would come at every closing. The Eagle policy on the right shows, as you can see, quite a bit more that is covered. If there was, the big one, if you look at number 9 on that top one, the forced removal of structure, which also, includes fencing. So if your fence is on, or your buyer's fence is on someone else's property, that is something you can file a claim for. Now, that's not something you can file a claim because there's no survey done on the original, the regular policy, but there is one done through that Eagle policy. So that's why we can insure to those boundary lines. So if it, could be, your property could be a foot over the line, and, without the Eagle policy, your buyer is on the hook for that, not their policy. But that's what that survey does help us clear up when we get the Eagle policies.
So how much more does it cost to get an Eagle, and how do I tell my buyer that?
So I can pull the rate chart and let you know on that. But again, it's for the policy, for the owner's policy, it is paid for by the seller for your buyer. So it doesn't cost your buyer any more at all. And to tell your buyer, I would always reach out to the listing site. When you're making your offer, just check off that you want that Eagle policy, and all the title companies do have that. So even if it is a split closing and you have the buyer, the other title company will have that policy available. Now, if the seller's listing agent agrees to it, is another story. I'm sorry?
Do I need to include that in my PA?
Yeah. Now, the listing agent may scoff at it and say, my client's not paying the extra funds. We're going to go with the standard owner's title policy. That's, then between negotiations there.
So
hey, Bob, if I can
all title companies have Eagle policies?
Yeah. It may not be called that, but it's the advanced protection policies, basically the industry term for it.
Hey, guys, I just want to jump in real quick. What we've been talking about is addressed on our purchase agreement. So the closing fee is addressed, and it's going to be based upon what you check off. So it's not going to be just done because our purchase agreement is going to state, but if it's not stated, it's going to be handled the way that Corey's addressed it.
Yeah, if we get something that doesn't say Eagle or anything, it's going to be that standard owner's policy.
Well, and I'm talking about the closing fee also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear you at the start of that, Darwin.
Yeah, it's also the closing fee that gets checked off to be on the seller, on the buyer, or split 50-50. That is the option regarding the closing fee itself.
Can the buyer upgrade to an Eagle policy?
Yeah, they can. They would have to have that survey done, and we'd want it to be done as soon as possible. They could also agree to pay the difference at closing and then have it done. That's the far better option for them.
what's the difference between an owner's and a lender's policy?
When you have a cash, there's only one policy and it's paid for by the seller. That's why they have the choice of what title company they're going to use because they're paying for the policy. So when there's a cash sale, there's an owner's policy paid for by the seller that insures the buyer, again, from that date of closing back. The lender's policy, if your buyer is getting a mortgage, they're going to be paying a lender's policy to their lender. And it insures their lender the same as it insures the buyer on the owner's policy, but it insures to the lender that they have first rights of foreclosure. That is what the lender is worried about. They want to make sure that there's no liens sitting in first priority in front of them. That's what we do insure to them. The lender's policy is a little cheaper than the owner's policy because we don't have to insure as many things, just that lien right to the lender that they have first rights of foreclosure.
So Eagle policy survey, would I do that on a condo then? Ask for a Eagle policy?
There's no outside, the outside of that condo is insured by the association. Sorry, I don't know why I couldn't think of the association. I believe you still can get an Eagle policy, and the boundary lines just are already covered. It's already mapped out and platted out, and it's not, you're not in ownership of the edges of the property like you are on the home. But yes, you still can get an Eagle policy on the condominium because it still does cover a lot of things that are, still involved in a condo. You can get that policy there.
So since all title companies, this is just kind of rehash.
Yeah.
I'm talking to the title company, and for whatever reason, I'm not using Title One. Excuse me. Okay. But if it's not called an Eagle policy, what would it be called? Got it?
Generally, the term is advanced protection policy. That if, any title company you say, tell them we want that Eagle policy, they'll know what you're talking about. If they don't, it's the advanced protection. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's fine. Call me. I'd be happy to take.
So if you have a survey that is a year old, can the buyer still request an Eagle policy?
If you have a survey that's any age old, I would tell you to give us a copy of that. And, we're going to try and make it work. The underwriter may not accept it due to age, but I believe within a year, I think you're absolutely fine on that. Instead of having to pay to get a new one a year later, I think that's absolutely going to be not a problem at all.
Awesome. You've done a great job answering all the questions and even handled Darwin's interruption flawlessly. So anybody else got anything? Go ahead. Don't, if you want to just chirp up instead of putting it into the chat, go ahead.
Hey, Corey and Bob, it's Bob Madgett here. How are you?
Good.
Good, Bob. How are you?
Good. Quick question. Just found this out. I've got a listing. In the backyard, there's a swimming pool. So it's been fenced in all the way around. I'm finding out from one of the neighbors behind that there is an encroachment into their yard. There's a little small section in the corner, and the neighbor on the side, a little bit of his, and in the back, it goes over about a foot. Nobody has any issues about it. So I don't know where that puts us in terms of, on the sale of the property. The current owner has had the property for 16 years.
Okay.
And the pool and all that situation was done before he bought the property. So it had already been there. Any comments on that?
The only problem you may end up running into is, everyone that's there right now is okay with it. But if it sounds like it encroaches on quite a few properties, one of those people in the future, if they sell that property, that new buyer could have an issue with it. So what a possibility of doing is drawing up an easement onto those properties and having the current owners sign them. and getting those on record. You have to get them on record
Okay.
for it to be, enforceable. Because if you have an unrecorded easement, the big utility companies, water, gas, all that stuff, PT, they're going to file those and record those easements. But we do run into on occasion where, there's been, fences is the most common one, but driveways that leak into another person's property, and they've signed an easement with the neighbor, and they were fine with it, but then they don't record that, and then they go to sell that property, and it creates an issue where if that property's been sold, you can have some issues down the line on those easements. So that would be something that could possibly be done.
Sure.
Where
Yeah.
they would drop easements onto those properties and have those signed, and those become part of record. And it is what it is. They have use of that portion of that parcel of land.
Yeah. The one owner who brought this up to me, I live in the same neighborhood, so we know one another. He had it done just in terms of, he was putting fencing in on the one side of his house. So he had that checked out prior to, and that's where he came up around that. So that's,
like I said, you could be good for now.
Yeah.
Where the current owners are okay with it because it's people they've known for that 16 years, but if one of those neighbors sells, you could end up with an issue of having to move that fence if they're not okay with them being on that property. But the easement could, take care of that.
Okay. All right. Well, good information.
I see we have a question about a ladybird deed. Lyndon B. Johnson's wife. How does that work? Is any difficulties with it?
So we no longer can prepare ladybird deeds. We can get them on record for you, but our in-house attorney also works, individually. He prepares those. And I talked to him a couple of weeks ago about one. And I think it was like $175 he charged to prepare the deed. Now, if you get that from them or anywhere else, we're happy to notarize them. Our underwriter just does not want us preparing the ladybird deeds. Now, any of the quitclaim deeds, things like that, we can prepare for your seller, your buyers post-closing, but ladybirds, we cannot.
Darwin asked, what is a ladybird deed? I love it.
Yeah, so the simplest way to explain a ladybird deed without showing you is, let's say I own my house individually, and upon my death, I wanted it to go to Darwin. Darwin, we're not drawing this deed up right now, but we'll talk about it later. And we could record a deed stating I have rights in the property. I can buy, I can sell, mortgage, do whatever I want with it. But upon my death, Darwin owns the property. And it's just him or whoever I want. I'm sorry?
What if the deed already exists? Is there any issues?
The ladybird deed already exists?
Yes.
Is that what you mean? Yeah, you can have a pocket deed where you hold on to it if it's been prepared and not recorded. Do you mean prepared and not recorded? Is that what you're trying to say? Yeah, you can do that.
I'm guessing because the questionnaire didn't give me all of that.
Yeah, and the chat right now is stating it does keep you out of probate. It does. Is it the best version of estate planning? Maybe, maybe not. That's up to an estate, in an attorney that would tell you what's the best way to go. I can't really give legal advice, but it does help keep people out of probate. And, I have a lot of parents where one of the parents has passed away and they want to make sure that the kids don't have to go to probate. So they'll deed, a life estate. It's a life estate deed is another word for a ladybird deed. That's the legal term for it, where, that one parent still retains ownership rights to the property. They can sell it, they can do whatever they want, but upon their death, their kids, obtain ownership of that. You can keep it and not record it. I always recommend to people to not hold on to deeds, to just get them on record and get it moving. You never know what will happen. Might as well just have it on record.
Is there capital gains if I'm that deed holder?
It goes back to basically inheritance taxes. But no, not generally, but I'm not a CPA. Again, Capital gains, not my specialty, but no.
Did you see that question? What happens
It cut off. I couldn't read the whole thing.
What happens if the owner decides to refinance the property?
They're still able to refinance with a life estate deed on record. They have the right to mortgage, sell, do anything on that property. It acts up until their death, the day of their death. Anything before that, it acts as if there was no deed. They're the owner in rights and has all rights to do whatever they want with that property.
Anything else, folks?
Does it create any difficulties for closing if they're you're representing the seller and that pops up on the title insurance?
The Lady Bird deed? Mm-hmm. Absolutely not. Again, same as the refinance. Yeah, you still have full rights. So if I Lady Bird deed my property to Darwin, all I tell him is, hey, Darwin, I sold the property. It doesn't even need to be made aware of prior to. It acts, like I said, it acts the same as if there was no Lady Bird deed up until the date of my death. And, whoever is on that deed, becomes the owner of the property. Yeah, but nothing changes. They're not, they don't have to sign off on refis or any mortgages. They don't have to sign off on any sales. It's all the way up until the day I die.
Just a quick question, Corey.
Yeah.
So if the owner decides to refinance,
mm-hmm.
the person that has the Lady Bird deed is there. Does that person have to agree to the refinancing?
No, they wouldn't even need to be made aware of it. And they most likely wouldn't be, I mean, if you're Lady Birding someone onto your property, if you're giving them the rights after you pass away, you're obviously pretty close to this person. So they'd know you're refining, but they wouldn't need to be involved in any fashion.
Okay.
You could refi and not even tell them.
Because I have that happening in my family right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so the title company or the refinance company,
the lender.
Yeah, the lender has actually notified my niece.
Okay.
Yeah, the home has been Lady Bird deeded to her upon her father's passing. Her mother has, sister has passed. So,
yeah, the exact situation. Yep.
Yep. So they did notify her.
Okay.
And so she was told that he could go ahead and refinance anyway. He really didn't need to have her permission.
Yeah.
However, the Lady Bird deed would actually, there'll be a new deed, and that Lady Bird deed wouldn't be there any longer.
I tend to disagree with that. Like I said, the seller retains, or the owner, not seller in that fashion, but retains the rights to do whatever they want. Now, after refi, if they want to, be overly cautious and really clean title as much as possible, they may do that. But I've been involved in, multiple sales that had refi, or that had Lady Bird deeds that refied, that there was not another deed recorded until the one at closing. When I've had it go both ways, where the original owner of the property was then selling. I've also had it where there was a refi, they passed away, and then the new owner of the property was selling, and there was no deed on record up until after that Lady Bird, up until the sale deed. So, I'm not sure that's completely necessary, but, like I said, there are a lot of things where people just want it to be as clean as possible, where there's never any, even question marks on it. And not that there would be a question mark, we would be able to clear that right away. But, there are people with, differing insights on that. And, hey, let's just do this to be safe. You see a lot of that.
Okay.
What happens if person on the deed is in prison?
I have had people get deeds notarized in prison and sell from prison. They, the most common way is, they'll sign a power of attorney to someone to sign on their behalf. I had it not that long ago, a couple months ago, have that happen. Yeah, they have notary services for inmates in there, so they can sell from in there.
See, Larry, you're covered.
That's not right. Man, picking on him.
I know he can't find the unmute button, so I'm okay.
Yeah, you're good for now. Till the next time you see him.
I have to go down there and see Larry. Buy him some lunch, maybe.
Sounds like a real treat for the two of you. I got you, Larry. Don't worry about it. I won't let him pick on you anymore.
All right, folks. Corey, thank you.
No. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Remember that you got questions, Corey, Title I.
Yeah, reach out. I'll be happy to help you with whatever you got.
All right.
All right.
Folks.
Take care, everyone. Have a beautiful afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Take care.